$951 million, almost vanished, stopped by a spelling mistake. In February 2016, hackers submitted 35 fraudulent transfer requests from Bangladesh's central bank to the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. In total, they were attempting to move $951 million. 5 of those requests were processed. 4 cleared completely. $81 million moved cross borders and disappeared into casinos in Manila, under the rules as they existed at the time. The remaining $870 million were blocked. One of those blocked transfers was destined for an entity called the Shalika Foundation. The instructions spelled it Shalika Foundation. A routing bank noticed a human reading a transfer instruction saw a word that didn't look right. That is the margin between $81 million lost and $951 million. The system the hackers used is called SWIFT. Every international bank transfer depends on it. SWIFT, the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication, is not a bank. It does not hold money. It does not move money. It is a messaging network. When one bank wants to transfer funds to another, it sends a SWIFT message, a standardized, authenticated instruction that the receiving institution reads and acts on. More than 11,500 financial institutions in over 200 countries use it. According to SWIFT's published figures, messages sent through its network facilitate trillions of dollars in transactions every single day. SWIFT is not the vault. It is the letter that tells the vault to open. If the message is trusted, the money moves. No further verification of intent, just authentication. And the entire system, trillions of dollars of daily movement, rests on one assumption, that authenticated messages are genuine. Bangladesh Bank had its foreign currency reserves in an account at the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, a standard practice for a central bank. On the night of February 4, 2016, hackers attempted to move approximately $1 billion from that account. By the morning of February 5th, they were well underway. All this was accomplished through a piece of malware. According to Bangladesh police investigators speaking to Reuters in April 2016, Bangladesh Bank had no firewall and used second-hand switches costing approximately $10 to connect the computers in its SWIFT room to the rest of its network. The lead investigator told Reuters that the absence of a firewall made the breach easier to execute, and that the cheap hardware made the subsequent investigation harder to conduct. Separately, cybersecurity firm BAE Systems published a technical analysis of the malware installed on Bangladesh Bank systems. BAE Systems found the malware performed 3 functions. Each one was deliberate. First, it submitted fraudulent transfer requests using Bangladesh Bank's genuine SWIFT credentials. According to BAE Systems, the attackers had gained initial access months earlier, most likely through targeted phishing emails sent to bank employees. Once inside, they spent weeks observing how Bangladesh Bank's SWIFT terminal operated. Second, it deleted the outgoing transaction records, so Bangladesh Bank's logs showed nothing had happened. The third thing it did was quieter. It suppressed the incoming SWIFT confirmation messages. The bank's printer, the one that automatically logged every transaction, stopped printing. The duty manager who arrived at the SWIFT room on the morning of February 5th noticed the printer wasn't working. He couldn't fix it. He went to Friday prayers. He decided he would deal with it the following day. The fraudulent messages sent to the Federal Reserve were authenticated. They used Bangladesh's genuine credentials. They followed the correct format. The messages looked, to every automated system that processed them, exactly like legitimate instructions from a legitimate institution. The attack was not a breach of SWIFT's global network. SWIFT's statement at the time confirmed that its core messaging services were not compromised. The attack was on Bangladesh Bank's terminal, the point where Bangladesh Bank connected to the network. The authentication was real. The instructions were not. The transfers were submitted on the evening of Thursday, February 4th, and then the calendar did the rest. Thursday evening in Bangladesh is the start of the weekend. Friday and Saturday are non-working days. Bangladesh Bank was closed. In New York, it was still Friday. The Federal Reserve processed the transfer requests throughout the day, with no one in Dhaka available to question them. On Sunday, Bangladesh Bank staff returned and discovered a printer backlog. They tried to reach the Federal Reserve. It was the weekend in New York. No one answered. On Monday, New York returned to work and received Bangladesh stop orders. 4 of the 5 processed transfers had already reached a bank account at the RCBC Bank in Makati, Manila. But Monday, February 8th, was a Chinese New Year, a public holiday in the Philippines. The receiving bank in Manila was closed. On Tuesday, RCBC Bank in Manila reopened. The funds, however, had already been withdrawn, in cash, over the counter, across the previous 4 days. There was nothing left to freeze. 5 days, 3 time zones, 4 institutional closures, each one a gap the transfers moved through before anyone on the other side could close it. 4 transfers worth $81 million reached Manila without interruption. 1 transfer worth $20 million was routed toward Sri Lanka. An employee at Pan Asia Bank in Colombo noticed that $20 million was an unusually large sum for a small non-governmental organization. The transaction was sent back to Deutsche Bank in Frankfurt for verification. There, a second pair of eyes noticed something else. The beneficiary name was spelled Shalika Foundation, not Foundation. The $20 million was rerouted back to Bangladesh's New York account. The $81 million already in Manila could not be recalled. Once the $81 million reached Manila, it was withdrawn in cash and converted into casino chips. This took days. The money was withdrawn over the counter at the RCBC branch in Manila in multiple transactions over several days. That cash was then brought physically to the casinos and exchanged for chips. At the time, under Philippine law, transactions through casinos were not covered by anti-money laundering reporting requirements. This was not an obscure technical loophole. It was a defined policy position, publicly debated in the Philippine legislature for years before February 2016. Funds converted into casino chips were not subject to the anti-money laundering reporting requirements that would have applied elsewhere. Authorities across 4 countries began trying to follow the money. The chips were already cashed out. The choice of Manila, the choice of casinos, they were the exit route. The chips were played briefly and cashed out. Electronic transfers in, untraceable cash out. In September 2018, the United States Department of Justice indicted a North Korean national named Park Jin-hyuk, alleged by prosecutors to be a member of a state-sponsoring hacking unit known as the Lazarus Group. The indictment connected him to the Bangladesh Bank Heist, the 2014 Sony Pictures hack, and the 2017 WannaCry ransomware attack. The technical attribution drew on analysis by BAE Systems, Symantec, and FireEye, which identified overlapping code, infrastructure, and methods across the attacks. None of this is a conviction. North Korea has denied any involvement. Park Jin-hyuk has not appeared in a U.S. court. No final conviction has been reached. Bangladesh Bank was not the first target. Banco del Austro in Ecuador lost approximately $9 million in a similar operation in January 2015. A Vietnamese bank was targeted in late 2015. Following Bangladesh, SWIFT publicly acknowledged the pattern. In communication to its member banks in April and May 2016, It confirmed that Bangladesh was not an isolated incident. Security researchers and the FBI linked comparable attack methods to attempted intrusions at financial institutions in Ecuador, Vietnam, Taiwan, and elsewhere. SWIFT subsequently made baseline security standards mandatory for all member institutions. Here is what the public record shows. The SWIFT network, which authenticates transfers across more than 11,500 institutions in over 200 countries, functioned exactly as designed throughout the Bangladesh bank heist. Every message it carried was authenticated. Every instruction it delivered was technically legitimate. The vulnerability was not in the network. It was in the assumption that the terminal sending the messages was secure. $951 million, stopped by a routing bank clerk who noticed that foundation was spelled with an A. Legal proceedings to recover the funds from Manila continued for nearly a decade across multiple jurisdictions. Following the heist and sustained pressure from the Financial Action Task Force, the Philippine legislature amended its Anti-Money Laundering Act in 2017 to include casinos as covered entities. Make of that what you will.